Question for both of you. If we agree that what we've been watching here, going back to June 1988, is the very best of Mike Tyson, where does that Mike Tyson belong in the list of all-time heavyweight greats? Taking into account what did happen later on when, against Buster Douglas, against Evander Holyfield twice, he was asked serious questions and couldn't find the answer. And if the ability to overcome adversity is a hallmark of a great champion, does he belong in the list of the greats? Against that, we heard your excited tones earlier on, David, and I was coaching at the time at the Lynn Club in South East London, not far from your club and Steve's club, the Fitzroy Lodge at the time, and the youngsters coming to the door came in a torrent, more so than they did earlier on when Lloyd Honeyghan, a couple of years earlier, a local South London boy, had won a world title in shocking fashion against Donald Curry. Mike Tyson had a greater effect on our club than Lloyd Honeyghan did. So with that in mind, you know, if he's having that impact all around the world, surely he belongs in the top 10. But the argument against it, as I say, is on those nights when he was really asked to find something, he didn't. So where does he rank for you too?
Well, I'll go first. And I slightly disagree with Dave. Listen, I think Holyfield and Tyson is always going to be a hard fight. I just have a feeling that what we saw that night for 91 seconds, I think we saw a pure heavyweight. I think we saw a man then that could trouble any heavyweight in history. I'm not saying he's going to beat them, knock them out and destroy them in 91 seconds. But I think that man there can beat any heavyweight at any of their peaks, at any of their primes, in any of their times. I'm convinced of it. So I think that Tyson can beat Holyfield. I think he might have just been too sharp. Plus, he was a lot smarter than people give him, as we've discussed, a lot smarter than people give him credit for. So that Tyson, Mike, belongs with the greatest on great nights, the best Ali, the Ali from the end of the 60s, the best Lennox Lewis, the best Holyfield, the best Riddick Bowe, the man that no one wants to talk about, but we all acknowledge now was a great fighter. Unfortunately, where he went after that, with each indignity, with each calamity, and with each disgrace, and with each bizarre ending to various fights, he starts to issue himself with an exit warrant from any list because of what happened later in life. But just briefly for that night, 91 seconds on June 27th in Donald Trump's Atlantic City. Boy, oh boy, that was a fighter that could go anywhere.
Yeah, I think that particular Mike Tyson had a chance to beat anyone. But I would have liked to have seen that Tyson we saw that night be pushed in round 6, 7, and 8, where we had to go soul searching. Because I don't know whether he could have turned it around then. I don't know, because we never really saw it. The only time we saw it where he really needed to was against Buster Douglas. And it didn't. How many fights did he have where he was behind on points, where he got put down, hurt, and came back? That's the question. Okay, if he fights Ali and hits Ali in the first round and has Ali on the ropes and finishes them off, okay, he could beat Ali. But if Ali boxes his head off and gets him tired, ties him up, taunts him, gets him missing, makes him pay, does Tyson have the mental capacity and the mental fortitude to get through that problem? I haven't seen him get through many problems, ever. It was either Mike Tyson's knocking you out, one of the two. It was never a fight that I can remember where it was Tyson, Tyson's having a trouble, he's having a problem, and he brings it back round. At the moment he started to lose, or it started to get tough, it seemed to go the other way. You know, Buster Douglas, Holyfield twice, even Danny Williams. You know, obviously that's way further down in when he was completely washed up. But so was Danny Williams at the time, if you really think about it. No one gave him a chance. Many fighters show, Holyfield, Lennox Lewis, they've all had tough fights where they've been on the brink of losing and found a way to win. I've never seen that happen with Tyson. That's just the way I see it. And I find it hard to say someone's in the top 5 of all time if they've never had a fight which they were losing that they came back to win. I just fight, you can't just be a non-top fighter and win all the fights you've won and never really suffer punishment and pain and come back and find a way to win. That's the way I see it. You get where I'm coming from, Steve?
Yeah, absolutely. I take that on board. But I'm going to throw something else out there that I've never read and I've never heard discussed. How about this, Mike and Dave? How about this? How about if he'd have stayed being that Mike Tyson? If he'd have stayed with Rooney? Because we all know, as great as what Buster Douglas did, Dave, in the ring in Tokyo that night, we knew the man in the opposite corner, even though, he dropped Douglas legitimately for over 10 seconds and was still dangerous, we knew he wasn't there. His head wasn't right. He was all over the place. He hadn't trained. He hadn't sparred. So what if we still had a brilliant Tyson with Kevin Rooney controlled? What if we had him? Because he was meant to fight Holyfield the following October or November '89. Right. What if they'd have met then? What if we'd have had a different Tyson? Because that's what I think we also need to discuss here, is that it's not the same Tyson going forward. So would he have panicked like he did against Douglas? Would he have fallen apart like he did against Holyfield, like he did against Lewis and even Danny Williams? Had he still been that Mike Tyson with Rooney? You know what? We haven't got enough time to discuss it. Yeah. We'd be here all night, all day.
An even greater what if. Go on, David, you go.
I definitely, you're right, Steve. If Mike Tyson, I put Mike Tyson into a category with the way his life panned out. But if he would have had the same team around him, which got him into that shape and would have continued to have the fights that he had, he would have grown. He would have become a better version of that. If he's 21 there, he's a baby in boxing terms. He was only going to get better, and better. But what happened was he peaked at 21 and didn't get any better than that. He got worse. Every fight, he got worse and worse. He did less training, less sparring, had less discipline, had more money, different women, this and this, and he just got worse and worse and worse until he lost. So the version of Tyson that lost to Buster Douglas was a significantly worse fighter than the fighter we just witnessed there with Spinks. But if you're right, Steve, if he wouldn't have fell off, if he would have had Rooney in his corner, the same team, he had people looking after him, investing his money correctly, looking out for him, he could have been number one without a doubt. Without a doubt, I think he could have been number one. That's the honest truth.
And another what if Customato hadn't died in 1985 before Tyson even became world champion? Because it did seem back then that Customato was able to control Mike Tyson's mind as well as everything that he did in the ring. But then again, as Tyson got older and admitted to having this kind of addictive personality, could anybody have kept control of the man that he became, the lunatic that he became? It's hard to know, but we cannot deny, though, David, even now there are young boxers going into gyms who still marvel at what Tyson did in the days that we're talking about, and on nights like the one that we've just watched through. And you almost turned into a kid right at the start of the show when you were talking about your memories as an 8-year-old. But there are still young boxers in gyms now talking about Mike Tyson. Even in a very strong era of heavyweight boxing now, people are still yearning for the great days of Mike Tyson. There's almost as if there's this perception that he was far, far greater than he was because of that knockout highlights reel.
People wanted that. People loved the artistry and the pure boxing of Muhammad Ali. They appreciated it. They loved it from Larry Holmes as well, the Eastern Assassin, the jab. But people wanted brutality. People wanted violence. They wanted pure, unadulterated obliteration of opponents. And that's what Mike Tyson brought to the table. He just came in there, no socks, no gown, no sequins, just literally, he was just all about damage. And it connected with people. People feared it. People wanted to be that guy. People wanted to walk into the pub and everyone go, oh, he's in here. But no one was. Only Mike Tyson was that man who could walk in any pub, any bar, walk down the street, and every single man's like, oh, I'll stay away from this guy. He was the most feared man on the planet, bar none. No one could ever compare with that type of intimidation. And it really connected with people. Everybody wants to be the big I am, and he was one of the biggest I am in the history of the earth.